Dear readers, the story continues as follows. Charlie agrees to meet Zhiyu at Shangri-La under the guise of her visiting Takehiko Ito, avoiding Su family surveillance while protecting her from Chung Fong. Meanwhile, the police discover Carrie's burnt rental car, prompting Chung Fong to realize Cary and Dan Mai have vanished into Aurous Hill's black hole. Stripped of his options, a panicked Chung Fong loses all leverage just as Zhiyu arrives at the hotel to meet Charlie. Loyal readers, please follow along with the next part of the story. Thank you.
Chapter 2896. Charlie only knew that Zhiyu didn't complain against Chung Fong at the live broadcast conference, and she must have reached some kind of agreement with him. However, he didn't know exactly what Zhiyu got in exchange from Chung Fong. Now that she had gotten the Su family's ocean transportation group, Charlie was immediately surprised. He really didn't expect that Zhiyu, a girl who is so powerful to bite such a piece of meat from Chung Fong with a single mouth. In other words, this is no longer as simple as a piece of meat under the feet, it is almost equivalent to cutting off a leg of Chung Fong. However, Charlie was also a little surprised, and asked Nanako. Now that the Su family's business is completely blocked, is there any way Zhiyu can revitalize this business? Nanako hurriedly said, to be honest, I don't know exactly what Zhiyu can do, but I think there are only two ways to go. One is to move all related businesses overseas, but this is for them. China's overseas resources have extremely high requirements, and the Su family has not been able to do it before. I think Zhiyu is also unlikely to follow this path. Speaking of this, Nanako said again, the other way left is to seek cooperation. In my opinion, the best way is to divide the entire Su family ocean transportation group, and then break it up. These resources are all scattered and integrated into the hands of other companies, that is, the Su family uses resources to invest in shares and retreat behind the scenes to avoid all blockades on the Su family. At this time, Melba couldn't help saying, Miss Ito's analysis is right, but I think that the second road will lose more to the Su family. It means that he originally drove a Walmart by himself, but now he owns his own store. They can't sell all of it, so they can only transport all their goods to other supermarkets to seek cooperation with other supermarkets, such as Carrefour, RT Mart, etc. In this way, these competitors will desperately lower prices, squeezing the profit margins of the Su family crazily. Charlie nodded lightly. For the Su family and Zhiyu, the first way is not easy sailing, and the second way is easy to walk, but there are indeed more sacrifices. Nanako hurriedly said at this time, Master, I think you can contact Zhiyu. You have a life-saving grace for her. Maybe she will agree to integrate all the resources into her hands with you. In that case, you will save money. Going to the long preparation, startup, and incubation stages, these all will be saved. When Melba, Warnia, and Doris heard this, they all showed shock. None of the women thought that Charlie would actually save Zhiyu's life. Melba couldn't help asking him, Mr. Wade, have you saved Zhiyu? Charlie nodded, stretched out two fingers, and said calmly, I have her rescued twice. My God, Melba exclaimed, and she thought to herself. Charlie only saved me once, and I feel as if I have been captured by him completely. All I think about is him, that Zhiyu was actually rescued twice by him. So, her feelings for him are probably much deeper than mine. Warnia said at this time, Master, since you have rescued Zhiyu twice, you may talk to her about cooperation. After all, she can only use resources to find others to cooperate with her. Of course, it would be more appropriate to cooperate with you for her. Charlie was also tempted. His ocean transportation business has not really started yet, but the Su family's ocean transportation group has already had a very large-scale presence. If he can integrate resources, his own business will surely start quickly. However, the only troublesome thing is that once Zhiyu cooperates with him, his identity will inevitably be exposed in Su's family. After the exposure from the Su family, Charlie didn't worry about him. After all, Xin and Su Shout were in his hands, and Carrie was killed by himself. If the Su family wanted to deal with him, they have no killer moves, and they didn't need to worry at all. And what he was really worried about was Zhiyu. Once she cooperates with him, Chung Fong will definitely be very angry, and maybe he will be angry at Zhiyu by then. After all, the Su family and the Wade family have feuds, and they are each other's biggest rivals. If Zhiyu cooperates with him, then in the eyes of Chung Fong, it is tantamount to betraying the Su family and throwing him into the enemy camp. Although Charlie also wanted to find a shortcut for his own business, this shortcut should not be based on putting Zhiyu in a dangerous situation. To put it bluntly, in the case of cooperation, he must not harm her. So, he waved his hand and said to Warnia, who didn't know the truth. Although I know Zhiyu, after all, my business hasn't improved at all. At this time, going to her for cooperation is equivalent to an empty glove white wolf. At that time, it is likely to give her a feeling, as if I have once saved her and now forcing her to cooperate with me. This is a bit of a moral kidnapping. After listening to this, Warnia nodded softly in understanding. She knew that Charlie was a person who would never use it as a bargaining chip to negotiate terms with others just because he has saved them. Asking Charlie to do such a thing does not fit his character. However, Doris knew the identity of Charlie and therefore guessed his true thoughts. So she said with some emotion, I heard that Chung Fong, the patriarch of the Su family, is sinister and despicable. For the so-called honor of the family, he can plan and kill his own daughter-in-law and granddaughter. I think that he will never sit back and wait for such a large business to go away from his hands, and maybe he will start with Zhiyu when the limelight on her passes. Speaking of this, she said seriously. After all, there have been real cases of guilty crimes since ancient times. Zhiyu, a weak girl with such a large piece of business in her hands, is equivalent to a 5-year-old. A child, holding millions of cash, going out for a walk in the dead night. I don't think she can keep it at all. Maybe she will be affected by it. Doris's words made Charlie a little worried. He knew that what Doris said was true, and Chung Fong at the moment was only subject to Zhiyu, so he chose to sacrifice one of his legs to settle things down. However, as the limelight of this incident gradually passes, Chung Fong, who has lost the leg of ocean shipping, would only feel more and more uncomfortable. It is more and more likely that the desire to grow back this leg will overwhelm him. By then, Zhiyu will definitely face great danger. Looking at it this way, cooperating with her might not have harmed her. To some extent, it might still be protecting her. Thinking of this, he said very solemnly, in this way, Melba is still advancing according to the original plan. After all, whether we cooperate with Zhiyu or not, we must first do the company registration, license application, and resource integration work. Otherwise, even if we get Zhiyu's resources, we won't be able to use it. As for whether Zhiyu can cooperate, I will find a chance to chat with her. At this moment, Zhiyu is also worrying about the next ocean shipping business. Although this piece of cake is very large, it is in a state where it cannot be eaten while holding it in the hand. After all, the entire business of the Su family has been blocked, and she hasn't been able to run these resources for the time being. In fact, she really wanted to meet Charlie, tell him about this, and then strive to cooperate with him and revitalize these resources. However, she was also worried that Charlie would be disgusted with her and the Su family. After all, her father, and even her family, had been against the Wade family for a long time, and might even be inseparable from the death of his parents. Therefore, she has no plans for her next step at the moment. Fortunately, the Ocean Shipping Group has just changed to her name, and Zhiyu feels that she has at least some time to make long-term plans. And at this moment, Chung Fong had already given her brother Zhufei in order to let him find a way to find out her style and figure out how she planned to operate the Su family's ocean transportation group. What Chung Fong fears most is that Zhiyu strikes the iron while it is hot and directly sells the assets of the entire ocean shipping group. If this is the case, then he really can't make it back. After all, the group is now under her name, and all resources and property are at her disposal. If she splits and sells the group, no one is qualified to stop it. Although the Su family was restricted from continuing to operate this business, they were not restricted from selling their assets. Therefore, once she turns the Ocean Shipping Group into money and deposits it in her own account, even Chung Fong has a day. It is impossible for those with great ability to take back the money, and then redeem the entire Ocean Shipping Group that was sold. Precisely because Zhufei got the order from the old man, he surrounded Zhiyu early in the morning, doing everything possible to inquire about her next plan. He even proposed that he could temporarily stop a few pieces of business in his hands, and then try his best to help her run the ocean transportation group. In his words, Zhiyu is his younger sister. Now that this business has been brought in, whether it is a blessing or a curse, the brother himself must stand up and help his younger sister bear it. The grandfather's family admired Zhufei's attitude very much. They felt that he was going to stand behind his younger sister at all costs. But only Zhiyu understood in her heart that all the things her brother said were not sentimental at all. Not sincere, but intended to test. Her brother's deliberation also made her feel very disgusted and anxious deep in her heart. Now she is afraid that she really can't protect this piece of business that she has finally taken back. Therefore, she wanted to see Charlie even more urgently. She wanted to have a chat with him and asked if he had any good suggestions. However, she didn't know whether Charlie wanted to see herself or not. After thinking about it, she still plucked up the courage and asked Charlie on WeChat, "Grace, do you have time to meet me?" Charlie suddenly received Zhiyu's WeChat and couldn't help being a little surprised. Although he didn't know why she wanted to see him, he felt that it should be related to the ocean shipping group. So he replied, "How about this afternoon?" Zhiyu hurriedly said, "No problem. I don't know where Grace is more convenient to meet." Charlie thought for a while, and said, "Come to Shangri-La. I'll give you the contact information. If you contact Takehiko of the Ito family, you say that you are going to visit him at Shangri-La. Then you go directly to his suite, and I will be there. Meet you there." Charlie felt that the currently Zhiyu must be closely monitored by the Su family. If he meets her outside, there is a high probability that he will not be able to avoid Chung Feng's eyes and ears. Therefore, it is better to let her come directly to Shangri-La. If it hadn't been for Ito Takehiko who happened to live in Shangri-La, Zhiyu's arrival in the industry of the Wade family would definitely arouse Chung Feng's vigilance. However, because Ito Takehiko is here, it is completely reasonable for her to see Ito Takehiko, and Chung Feng will certainly not doubt it. After all, she is now looking for an outlet for her ocean shipping group. It is only natural and logical to go to Ito Takehiko to talk about cooperation. The more logical it is, the easier it is for Chung Feng to relax his vigilance. Moreover, Shangri-La is Isaac's site, and Chung Feng's eyeliner will never get in. So it is impossible for the old man to know who Zhiyu came to meet in Shangri-La. It was noon soon. The car that was struck by lightning in Phoenix Mountain Cemetery is still triggering many rumors. However, no one associates this incident with Carrie. Even Chung Feng didn't know that Carrie, who he had high hopes for, has already been turned into dust suspended in the air at this moment. However, by noon, the police issued a missing person notice. They found the registration information of the vehicle based on the vehicle that was struck by lightning at Phoenix Mountain yesterday. Since the car is under the name of the car rental company, the police found the lessor of the car. Thanks to the country's strong real name system, Carrie failed to hide his identity when renting the car. The certificate provided to the car rental company was his British passport. Therefore, the Aurous Hill police immediately grasped the first substantial clue. The car that was struck by lightning last night was rented by an Englishman named Carrie. However, only the wreckage of the car was found at the scene, but no shadow of the person was found. The car was struck by lightning, and one must find a way to find it. Therefore, the police are looking for clues about Carrie this morning. The police checked the surveillance video and found that Carrie was indeed driving the car last night, all the way out of city, and came to Phoenix Mountain. This clue made the police pay more attention to the whereabouts of Carrie. After all, the development route of this matter was that Carrie drove to Phoenix Mountain, and the car was struck by lightning and burned to an empty shell, and then Carrie disappeared. They seriously doubt that he will die like the security guard at the cemetery before, so the top priority is to find his whereabouts. Therefore, while organizing police forces to conduct a carpet search around Phoenix Mountain, they also follow the regular case handling process and issue tracing notices to the outside world. These are publicizing Carrie's personal information, and at the same time soliciting valuable clues from the public. After this clue solicitation order was issued, it did not arouse too much attention from society. After all, to ordinary people, he is someone who they have never heard of, and everyone does not pay attention to his life and death. However, this news was quickly noticed by the Su family's eyeliner. At this time, Chung Feng was talking secretly with Moby in the study. Moby is currently the strongest master of the Su family. It is also Chung Feng's last trump card. If Moby also folded, then Chung Feng would basically have nothing to rely on. This time, Moby took the initiative to come over, just to talk to the boss about Carrie. He said to Chung Feng, "Master, are you planning to let him kill Luther after he kills the mysterious person?" Yes. Chung Feng didn't hide anything in front of him, and said, "Luther has now broken through to a 4-star martial artist. If he can't be used by me, it must be a big trouble in the future. I can't leave him as a hidden danger." Moby clasped his fist and said, "Master, I have something to ask next." Chung Feng nodded and said, "Say it, it's okay, don't be so polite." Elder Moby said seriously, "Since Luther can break through to the 4-star martial artist, there must be some chance. Maybe even he has mastered some new inner boxing technique. Since Mr. Carrie is good at using Zhiyu, he must have mastered a lot of unusual means. In my opinion, it might as well be possible for him to force Luther to hand over the cultivation method." For Moby, who is also a warrior, after hearing that Luther became a 4-star warrior, he was very fascinated in his heart. However, there are countless hardships and difficulties along the way of martial arts, and it is impossible for ordinary people to make any major achievements. To become a 2-star warrior, you need extremely high talents and huge resources. As for the 3-star warriors, there are only a few sporadic ones. As for the 4-star warrior, only Luther is known so far. Therefore, Moby knew very well that Luther must have encountered some great opportunities. The greatest possibility is to find a better inner boxing method. Therefore, he is also very much looking forward to it. However, he also knew very well that, let alone a better inner family boxing method, even if it is a broken mind method, it is a secret of many families and it is impossible for him to spy on it. But now there is a good opportunity. Elder Su found the Zhiyu master Carrie. Although his strength is not strong, he has already played superbly in his first hand, completely killing people invisible. It was precisely because of this that he asked Old Man Su to ask Carrie to find a way to ask Luther about his cultivation method. Chung Feng said with some worry at this time, "I don't know now, if Carrie's Zhiyu technique can kill a 4-star warrior. After all, the strength of the 4-star warrior is unfathomable. Maybe Carrie really isn't an opponent." Old Moby hurriedly said, "Master, you don't know anything about Zhiyu art. In our martial arts people's eyes, it is just like a submachine gun. It belongs to the kind that doesn't speak morality at all. No matter how strong a martial artist is, he can't evade a shuttle bullet at close range. The Zhiyu worm in Carrie's use, if really used properly, the power is not less than a submachine gun." "Oh," Chung Feng said in surprise, "according to you, Carrie really has a chance to get Luther's cultivation method. At that time, can my Su family also use this set of cultivation methods to establish sects and directly create a martial arts sect?" Moby excitedly said, "It's totally possible." As he said, he continued with excitement. Nowadays, the martial arts family is imprisoned by blood, and their own practice methods will never be passed on to outsiders, which also limits the maximum scale that a martial arts family can achieve. Furthermore, there are many scattered martial arts practitioners, hoping to obtain a sophisticated practice method to enhance their strength. If the Su family has a better practice method, it can be used to attract disciples. Dare to pack tickets, but it is very easy to accept thousands of disciples. Chung Feng smiled and nodded, and said seriously, "At that time, you will take care of this sect. By then, all the disciples will be your disciples and under your command. As for me, there is only one request, and that is this sect must serve for my Su family from generation to generation." Hearing this, Moby immediately backed up 2 steps, knelt on one knee, and solemnly promised, "You can rest assured that I will be faithful to the Su family. If I have the opportunity to establish a sect on behalf of the Su family in the future, I will definitely be. This purpose of serving the Su family will be the sole purpose of the entire sect." Chung Feng was very satisfied with his statement. This time, half of the He family hired for the price of blood loss has made him feel very upset. Therefore, he also desires to have a power that truly belongs to him. In that case, not only can the cost be greatly saved, but also there is no need to be controlled by others. Thinking of this, he picked up the phone and said with a smile, "I will call Carrie now. If he can get Luther's practice method, then I will add another 50 million to him. After that, he immediately shot Carrie over. However, the prompt on the other end of the phone is, "Sorry, the user you are dialing is not in the service area, please call again later." Chung Fong couldn't help frowning, and said, "This man Carrie is such a careless person, he is too comfortable." In the past few days when he went to Aurous Hill, he said that he is resting in the cemetery every day, and the phone could not be reached. Moby echoed from the side, "Master, this kind of people are generally withdrawn, and the natal Zhiyu worm in his hands is said to live by eating human brains. It is very evil. It is estimated that it can live healthier in the environment of the cemetery. Maybe that's the reason." As he was talking, the butler Anson ran over panting, and said nervously, "Master, it's not good." Chung Fong couldn't help asking, "What happened? Why such a fuss?" Anson handed the phone to Chung Fong and said, "Master, look at this missing person notice." Chung Fong glanced at it. The missing person notice contained Carrie's photo and name. After he saw the contents, his eyes suddenly went black. Anson hurriedly stepped forward to support him, pinching him hard to make him slow down a little. Chung Fong said with a trembling voice, "Carrie also disappeared." "Yes," Anson said with a gloomy expression. "The police found the car he rented, which had been damaged by lightning, but he was nowhere to be seen. Now the police are collecting clues everywhere." The Moby who was on the side thumped in his heart, and hurriedly leaned forward to take a closer look, and his heart was instantly cold. "I just hoped that Carrie could get rid of Luther and get his practice method, but before the dream is finished, Carrie disappeared in Aurous Hill." Chung Fong was already a little bit unbearable at this time, and he muttered to the utmost decadence, "Aurous Hill is not a city, it's a black hole. Even Carrie can fold in. What is hidden in it?" Quote. Anson helped him follow to his chair and said with concern, "Master, don't worry about it. No need to get angry. Now Carrie just can't get in touch. We don't know what the specific situation is. We will wait for more accurate information. What do you say?" Chung Fong waved his hand and said dejectedly, "It doesn't make sense to wait any longer. We have been expecting miracles since my first son went there, but there is no clue until now. Then, the other son disappeared as if he has evaporated from the world. Now change. Then it is Carrie now, the one I sent to that city, now only Dan is left." Anson hurriedly said, "Master, why don't you call Dan and ask him to do some calculations to see what is going on? He is an old man with no offensive power. He can't happen to be one who can have an accident." "Yes." Chung Fong nodded immediately and said, "Dan has never wanted to cause trouble. He always hopes to avoid all risks. With his style of behavior, he will definitely not encounter any danger." With that, he continued to call Dan with a trembling hand. But what he didn't expect was that on the other end of the phone, the system prompt sounded. "Sorry, the phone you dialed has been turned off, please call again later." Chung Fong almost collapsed to the ground in shock at the moment when he heard Dan's phone shut down. Carrie killed innocent people everywhere, so he disappeared. Who could have imagined that Dan, a 100-year-old man who never even killed a fly, would also disappear? He couldn't help but trembled. Could it be that guy even didn't let go the 100-year-old man? Anson wiped a cold sweat and blurted out, "Master, Carrie's car was smashed into a ghostly look by lightning. He himself certainly cannot be spared. As for Dan, I think he has two possibilities. Either dead or ran away." "Running away." Chung Fong frowned, and he shook his head for a moment, then nodded and said, "This old guy can pinch, maybe he will be in danger, so it's possible to run ahead of time." As he said, he sighed deeply, and said, "Whether this old guy is dead or alive, in my opinion, it is impossible for me to use him anymore. Carrie will probably be over too, and I have no more cards in my hand." Anson hurriedly asked, "Master, what shall we do next?" Chung Fong shook his head and murmured, "I don't know." At the same time, Zhiyu came to Shangri-La on the grounds of visiting Takehiko. Ito's younger sister. There was another knock on the door in the voice of secretary of Doris, and then took her to Ito's room. "Miss Song, it's just that at this time Ito Takehiko was enjoying a massage in the spa center, and it was Charlie who was waiting to meet Melba at this time. Warnia and rang the bell outside the door, quite clear about my situation in Wade's house. She respectfully said to Charlie, to it later and don't say anything. Sue is here." The two nodded and Charlie nodded. At this time, the office door was pushed open by the secretary, and the glamorous Warnia walked in with the virgin Ito. "If there is nothing wrong, I will withdraw first, seeing Charlie, Warnia respectfully said, Master Wade. Nanako couldn't hide her excitement and said, Master Charlie. Melba was amazed when she saw the stunning beauty in the two of them. She really didn't expect that there were so many beautiful women besides Charlie. Just being Doris has already shocked her, but she did not expect that the two beauties at the moment are no worse than Doris. Moreover, Melba thought very confidently, if I add myself, the four women, it would not be exaggerated to say that we are the four gods. She couldn't help wondering why so many beautiful women called Charlie differently. For example, she was calling him Mr. Charlie, Doris was calling him Master Charlie, and Warnia was called Master Charlie Wade, and Nanako called him Master Charlie. Somehow, she always felt that Nanako's name for Charlie was really ambiguous. It sounded more intimate than Mr. Wade, Master Wade, or Young Master. Charlie said to the two at this time, you two are here just right. I'm talking about ocean transportation with Melba and Doris. After speaking, they made a brief introduction to each other. Afterward, Nanako said, by the way, Master Charlie, I have received news that the Su family's ocean shipping group has completed the shareholder change, and now all the shares are in the name of Miss Zhiyu from the Su family. There is a very large ocean-going transportation fleet held by this group, but they are still in a state of being blocked, and the entire group cannot be activated. If you can find a breakthrough from Zhiyu, you will definitely be able to get twice the result with half the effort.